Got some stuff to work out. Hello, and welcome to the Core Dog Experience. We're here talk Ohio State Buckeyes and college sports. Trying to do more here in 2024, which includes more live streaming. Trying to get out there, do some more live stuff and help grow this thing out. Trying some different stuff. So bear with me as I work out some of the kinks as I get used to doing this live streaming stuff. So like I said, trying to do more here in 2024, which include the live streaming. I grew a lot in 2023. This time last year I had around 10 to 15 subscribers. By the end of the year I was close to 200. So this year I'm trying to break that limit, trying to get over 200 and get close to 300. Baby steps, y'all. Baby steps. So again, if you're liking this, please help a brother out. Hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. So with that out the way, let's get into the topics for today. Ohio State had their toughest test on the road against Oregon. Speaking of live stuff, I did a snap reaction that was live following that game. So I'm not going to rehash a lot that was said there during that thing. You got to go check it out. The recording is available for you to go check that out and see some of my comments immediately following the game. But one of my things I did bring up was how far was Ohio State going to drop following that game. And I brought up some of my stuff in my snap reaction following the game, because it was a close game, a game Ohio State very much could have won if not for a bad call. Ain't gonna get into that. I touched upon some of this stuff there. This is more about the AP poll and some of the stuff on Ryan Day that I wanted to touch upon in the number 4 ranking, because that was my immediate concern, how far Ohio State was going to drop, because given the history of the posters and how they love the SEC, I just thought they were going to take a big drop regardless of how close the game was. So I was real interested in that. I really wasn't angry about the outcome of the game, mainly because of the 12-team playoff. For those who have been with me for a while and saw my snap reaction following that Georgia game, you could tell the big difference between that snap reaction, where brother was upset. I was upset after that game, and how my reaction went after the Oregon game, mainly because of the 12-team playoff. Now, had it been 4 teams, a 14 playoff, yeah, I might have reacted just a little bit differently, because it's hard to get in, even with this type of laws, and there's only 4 teams getting into the playoffs. But for a 12-team playoff field, I ain't quite as angry as I probably would have been had it not been for, the 12-team playoff. So it's more subdued in my reaction. And like I said, I was just more concerned about how far Ohio State was going to drop. So the polls came out, I believe Sunday evening, early Monday, when I finally saw them. And to my pleasant surprise, Ohio State only dropped 2 spots, from number 2 to number 4. Now, in my viewpoint, that's probably where, in my head, I was thinking it should be. I didn't think it was going to actually play out that way. I say, given the history of how the posters treat these SEC schools, and if you, like I said, if I heard me during my reaction immediately following the game, I had a feeling, I hinted that we might even drop below Alabama. Regardless, they just love doing that. Even though Nick Saban ain't there, it's still Alabama, and they all Alabama, SEC always get the benefit of the doubt. So that was my concern, was, are we going to drop below Alabama? Because I just assumed it was a given we're going to drop below Georgia. How many out there, Ohio State fans, any other fans, thought we were going to fall below Georgia regardless of the outcome of that game? I just thought it was going to be a given. We were going to drop below Georgia, and my main concern was, are we going to drop below Alabama? Because Alabama, how they still clocking in at number 7, I don't know. They lost. Vanderbilt's improved, but they gave up 40 to Vanderbilt and didn't look good in doing so. Vanderbilt dominated on both fronts, on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and they were able to hang on to a number 7 ranking after getting beat by Vanderbilt, who put up 40 points on them, and they still in the top 10. So, and I guess you can take into consideration other events that happened throughout that college football last weekend, but that's what, are we going to fall below Alabama? And we may have if Alabama hadn't struggled against another unranked team in South Carolina. South Carolina had a chance to win that game. They came all the way back, recovered the onside kick, and had a chance to win that game. So if Alabama had blown out South Carolina, I don't know what would have happened, honestly. At that time, I didn't know what was going to happen. But given how Alabama struggled against South Carolina, I can see it. But I just assume for sure you got that buffer between Georgia and the rest of the field. And if Ohio State had dropped below Georgia, they would have probably took a big drop. But to their credit, to my dismay, they only dropped Ohio State 2 spots, and I thought that's a right spot to drop them, given how that game played out. Ohio State, as we all know, had a very good chance to win that game. Had they done some stuff differently in terms of clock management, had they done some stuff differently, all that clock management wasn't all their fault, as we found out as more information came out, which we're going to touch upon some of that stuff. But you thought they would have learned a little bit more after following that Georgia game about clock management. And again, everything's not entirely on them, but you thought they could have done a little some stuff differently. Now, a lot of folks are questioning, and not going to rehash the whole game, but just at the end of the game, some of the clock management issues and some of the stuff that people were bringing up in terms of why we throwing the ball. And that's a valid argument, but you got Jeremiah Smith out there literally one-on-one. Who's not going to take that chance and throw the ball? How often does that offensive pass interference get called? Like I mentioned, I've seen more egregious push-offs in games where the offensive pass interference was not called. But they flew it. They threw the flag. It is what it is. The call is what it was. I'm not entirely upset about the call. Some of the fan base is. They would have preferred us running the ball. There's an argument to be made for that. We were in field goal range, but had that pass interference not been called, we would have been in great field goal position. But they called the call. And hindsight's always 20/20. Should we have ran the ball a couple times just to center the ball and give Fielding the chance? Who knows how the clock management stuff played out? But that is what it is at the end of the game. But the top 4. So given the nature of how we lost, we had a chance to win that game. In my head, I'm thinking we should not drop no more than number 4. That's what I was thinking. Me personally, that's what Cordar was thinking. We shouldn't drop no more than 4. I did not have belief that the pollsters were going to see it the same way, given their history of ranking these SEC teams, but they shocked me. Ohio State ended number 4, Penn State number 3. They're undefeated, beat a good SC team, the average SC team on the road. So I can see them moving up to number 3, and I'm sort of still shocked that they did not move Georgia in front of them. Maybe that's part of the Alabama effect. Like I said, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and very well could have lost to South Carolina. I mean, they lost to Bama, and their best win is Clemson, who's creeping back up. But I think Ohio State showed their worth. People are questioning, are they really this good? I think you go into a place like Autzen Stadium and come away with and have Oregon squeak by with a 1-point win. I think they showed they were every worth deserving of their number 2 ranking, and I think they have showed they're very well deserving of their current number 4 ranking. They have a bye week to go fix some stuff, because we're going to talk about that too. They got some fixing to do, because some stuff was exposed during that Oregon game, and we got some fixing to do. The rest of the top 10, according to the AP, we're going to get into Core Dog's top 10 a little bit differently, because mine is just a little bit different than what they got. But it's interesting to see just how the rest of it plays out and how it's going to affect Ohio State moving forward, should they go ahead and win out. But see the top 10 here. So just rounding out, you got Georgia at number 5, which again surprised me that they not move Ohio State up. Miami, still got to see what they can do. Their best win still over Florida. I guess that it's going to be an interesting game between them and Clemson, and then got Pittsburgh lingering there in the background. And got Alabama, LSU, who's still at number 8 based on what, I mean, they've won everything since the USC game, but we've seen how USC maybe not all of that actually. You got Iowa State and Clemson creeping back up there. So that is the top 10, and then you see the rest of the field there. Tennessee, who's they might get some teams in trouble if they can figure out some of the stuff they need to do offensively. How Notre Dame is at number 12 is just beyond me. Northern Illinois is just first of all, it's Northern Illinois that you lost to at home, and why you are still up that high is a mystery to me, given some of the teams that are behind you. I think BYU should be ranked up, Texas A&M, Boise State. Indiana, I think, is underrated here. And of course, Kansas State. Ole Miss keeps their ranking, even though I think, is it the Lane Kiffin effect? I don't know, but they always rank the Mississippi schools, and Mississippi schools always mess up. Missouri still riding off the wave of their victory over Ohio State in the bowl game. But have they really been all that good? Or maybe Vanderbilt, because they squeaked by Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, not taking nothing away from Vanderbilt, but it's still Vanderbilt. It's hard to picture Vanderbilt and football in the same sentence. Vanderbilt good in football in the same sentence, even though they did beat Kentucky again. So who knows? Vanderbilt might be one of those seasons for Vanderbilt. Who knows? SMU, Illinois, we got the academy schools are doing really, really well. And then how's Michigan still ranked? Based off what Iowa just did to Washington, how's Michigan still ranked? Based off, did y'all hear me? Based off what Iowa just did to Washington, how is Michigan still ranked? I don't know, but they are ranked. That is what it is. They are still ranked. So that is the ranking. So Ohio State, they're still in very good position. And like Will Howard says, hey, everything's still there. Hope this lights a fire under the team, under the coaching staff. They get back to work and make some changes, reevaluate how they handle some of their late game clock management issues, to take into account all factors in terms of clock management, in terms of what the defense might do or try to do, or in Ohio State Oregon case did do. And we're going to touch on some of that. But they got some work to do. Everything is still there for the fans who was just, all my users thought it was just the end of the world. And I get it to a degree, because I used to be sort of kind of like that. Like Ohio State would lose and my whole day would just be ruined. Nobody wanted to be around me. My wife didn't want to be around me. Co-workers didn't want to be around me. My kids didn't want to be around me. I was like, you know what? It's a game. So that's why I look at it now. But after that Georgia game a couple years ago, the targeting, no targeting, I was like, all right, it's a game. It's cool. Some of these Ohio State fans, they ain't learned what I learned. It's just a game, and they live and die with Ohio State. So, but like I said, everything is still there for Ohio State. All their goals coming into the season, they can still achieve. They can still, whatever their goals, beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win the national championship. All three of those are still attainable. All three of those are still there. Going undefeated along the way would have been nice, but it ain't the end of the world. It ain't the end of the world, especially the way the schedule sets up. We're not in divisions now. They can win out, and they can meet Oregon again. Someone asked me that during my last thing. Who would I think is going to meet up in the Big Ten championship game? And I said then, last week, I still feel Ohio State has the best chance to go undefeated the rest of the way, more so than even Oregon. And I ain't the only one that feels that way. Will Howard feels that way, and some of the posters feel that way. They're still projected to be the number 2 team when it's all said and done. They're projected to be a number 2 seed, get a first round bye, and handle their business. But first, they got to handle their business. They got to handle their business. To achieve their goals, they got some work to do. But everything is still there on the table for Ohio State and for this team. Nothing has changed following that game. I ain't going to say no loss is a plus, but given the situation, given the way the rest of the season has played thus far, and some of the stuff the other teams have had trouble with, Ohio State is in a very good position. They are the best, the highest ranked one-loss team, which you never would have thought that, given that Georgia is there still. And I'm going to keep talking about that because I'm just shocked we're still in front of Georgia. But now they got to play today. They got to prove it. They got a bye week. They got a bye week to work out some stuff. And where do you start in terms of working out stuff? We all know where they need to start. Because, anytime we lose, we're looking for somebody to blame. We play the blame game better than probably any other fan base out there. We're going to find somebody to blame. If it's not going to be an individual, we're going to find an individual to blame. Dang it, this time, Denzel talked like Evan Stewart. He talked some smack. Denzel responded and say, yeah, these are the games I look forward to. Yeah. Denzel got burnt again and again and again. Now, everyone's allowed a bad day. A bad half. Denzel never recovers. Sometimes you get burnt like that the way he did. You usually get an interception at the end of the day. Some time during the course of a game, you make amends and you get an interception. Not Denzel, not against Oregon. He didn't do it. He kept getting burnt. It was so bad. So folks were saying, y'all need to take him out. But theoretically, he's our best cover corner. But you wouldn't have known it to watch that game. You would have thought Evan Stewart was the best receiver on the field. And that's a field that includes Jeremiah Smith, the freak, Emeka. Is he even better than Carnell Tate? I don't know, but you would have thought so looking at that game and the way he was just burning our best cover corner. I mean, sweet Igbenogson on him. At least Igbenogson would have grabbed him. He will grab you. He very hands-on. But switch it up. Burke wasn't close. He bit on some of them on the moves. And the guys were just running 5-10 yards deep on them. And so Denzel, he needs to go back and look at that tape himself And again, I don't know if it was so much Denzel just being out of position, just being outplayed, or Evan Stewart just that much better, or was it the defensive scheme? Because you ain't gonna stop at Denzel. Oh no, ain't just gonna stop at Denzel. You gotta find someone else to blame. If the buck don't stop with Denzel, Jim knows he was getting roasted just as much and just as bad as Denzel Burke. And again, and this was my concern coming into this game, as I mentioned on my other thing. Go check it out. Go check out my other snap reaction. But this is what I brought up following the Michigan State game, believe it or not. Following the Michigan State game, I said I'm concerned about the secondary. That first half was very telling to me. Aiden Childs, who is not a Dylan Gabriel. Michigan State receivers are not the quality and caliber of Oregon receivers. And that first half, Ohio State could not stop them. Wasn't for turnovers, Michigan State would have put up more points than what they did. But they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Oregon did to a degree, had a botched field goal, botched snap on some of that stuff. But their receivers are better than Michigan State's. Their quarterback is better than Michigan State's. And that was my concern. And you would think that they were playing, the defensive scheme was just, we don't want to show our hand just yet. We're going to wait and show our hand till we play some better competition. So I'm waiting to see, what they going to do. This is some better competition. We're going to turn it up now. We're going to show what we really about. The secondary was leaving folks open, and we ain't getting no rush. We're the rushman. We're Jack Sawyer. We're JTT. Where's a rushing man package on these passing plays? Because for the most part, Dylan Gabriel had a clean pocket. He was able to work the pocket. Our defensive tackles were getting a little bit of push, but he had a clean pocket, and he was doing those chunk plays. Because I honestly don't think they could have just drove down the field on us, because no one's been able to do that for a while. Ohio State's issue has been giving up the chunk plays. And Jim Knowles was brought in to sort of alleviate those type of plays. And against Oregon, he did not. In the games we have lost, it's been the chunk plays, because it is very hard, despite what Spriggs has said about the defense, it's very hard to get long, sustaining drives against this defense. If you don't mix in a chunk play here and there, good chance you ain't going to score against this defense. But Oregon was able to get chunk plays again and again and again. No pass rush, secondary soft. The defense needs some fixing to do if we want to get to where we think we need to be in terms of our goals for this season. We got all the offense in the world. I don't think our offense wasn't the issue. Again, we get some clock management stuff there at the end, but the clock offense has not been the issue. Will Howard has not been the issue. Will Howard played an excellent game. Some people would have you think otherwise, but y'all gonna run him off too? Ran off Kyle McCord. I was a Kyle McCord fan, but Will Howard is a better fit for this offense for what we want to do. He does bring a measure of running ability here, and he played a good game. Didn't turn the ball over for the most part, made good decisions. Because he had the one bad drop the snap when we made that stop on fourth down, and that may have been the turning point in the game to some degree, because if we had been able to go down and get something to make a 2-possession game, it would have been tough for Oregon, despite all the chunk plays we were giving up. But Will Howard, other than that, he made good decisions, made good reads, was accurate for the most part. Again, the end of the game stuff, not entirely his fault. You can blame it on some of the play calling, but, he slid. He said he was looking at the clock when he slid, and I believe him because you saw him looking up. How can you not see the clock? But he played the good game, and I think he can take us there to the championship. given they fixed some things. So I'm not concerned about the offense. My concern is about the defense. My concern is about this here. I did not realize this until, internet good for stuff. Can't believe everything you see, read, but you don't be thinking about stuff like this. But you go back and think about it. Did Georgia punt during the championship game? I don't remember them punting in the fourth quarter. This is fourth quarter. And this is something saying I heard. So this secondhand information, somebody heard from someone who heard, who done heard. So they decided to post it because they heard. So I don't know how true this is or how factual it is, but it sounds about right because Oregon didn't punt in the fourth quarter. Missouri didn't punt, I don't think. And I don't think Georgia punted. The Michigan games, I can remember or not, but that sounds just about right. There ain't too many people been punting in the fourth quarter in these big matchup games against Ohio State. They've been able to do what they needed to do, largely in part because of the chunk plays. But yeah, if this is true, then yeah, Jim Knowles needs some fixing to do if we can't force a punt in the fourth quarter in these bigger matchups. At some point, you got to get a stop. You got to get a stop. Now, if we can't get no stops in the fourth quarter, you know what kind of strain that puts on your offense, even an offense as good as ours, if you cannot get a stop. If you're letting them convert on third downs, you're only going to get the ball maybe once, well, twice, 3 times if you're lucky. So if this is true at all, this is something that really needs to be fixed and what we can do differently to do something, because that ain't right. To see that. No fourth quarter punts at all. And bear with me, I said I'm still learning this stuff, trying to set up my next stuff. If anyone out there know that this is true, Google this stuff. I gotta Google this my own self to see if this is true. No fourth quarter punts in these big matchup games. That is going to be a problem if we cannot do better than that. Oh man. Jim Knowles. He was brought in to fix the defense. And against the lesser opponents, he's been able to do that. But as we see here in these bigger matchups, it ain't always working out. How is he going to fix that? Hopefully that's something they can start working on moving forward. But it doesn't stop with Jim Knowles, because Ohio State, we looking for people to blame. There ain't never enough to blame one person. And if you can't, and if it ain't the player messing up, and if it ain't the scheme, then maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the coaching. Maybe Laird Johnson done lost his edge. Maybe he ain't coaching up the rushermen the way he need to coach him up to get to the pressure like he used to back in the day. Is it Larry Johnson? Is he too old? Had the game passed him by? Because he brought in a dang good recruiting class. He got him some people. He got him some bodies to work with. But is he coaching them up? Is it his coaching, or is it Jim Knowles' scheme where we can't get these guys into the backfield and generate a little more pressure? And of course, if it ain't the defensive coach, you know it's always going to come back to Ryan Day. Ryan Day. But we're going to get to Ryan Day. We're going to talk about, I touched upon the end of the game stuff, the Rushman package, how they're not getting there. But the interesting thing that came up that I touched on a little bit earlier, and again, as you guys are watching this, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Please help a brother continue to grow this thing out. Trying to do more here, like I said, in 2024. So every little bit helps. And one of the things, the interesting things that came out in the last couple of days is talking about the clock management and the stuff that some of the stuff that came to light based on some of the clock management issues and what the Oregon coach has admitted to. He found a loophole and he exploited said loophole. He found a loophole regarding the penalty and the 12-man thing. Because we all saw what happened with the 12-man thing. 12 men on the field. We all saw what went down, what happened. And the coach said he did that intentionally. About 10 seconds left to go. He ran the 12th man out there. You know, they got the penalty, but it cost Ohio State, 4 or 5 seconds? Get a couple of those seconds back, Ohio State's probably kicking that field goal and winning the game. But he found a loophole, and he exploited the loophole. And now the rules committee is going to look at this loophole because Ohio State got punished off a defensive penalty. And it ain't supposed to be that way. It ain't supposed to be that way. You ain't supposed to get punished off a defensive penalty, and Ohio State got punished off a defensive penalty that we know now was done intentionally. He found a loophole, and he exploited it. Now, it ain't exactly cheating. You got to share that, but it ain't exactly cheating. But is it the most ethical thing to do? I mean, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, as the saying goes. He found a loophole, and he exploited the hell out of it, and they won the game because of it. And like I said, there was a genius. They intentionally ran the 12th man out there to ensure no big gains occurred. No big gain. They got the penalty, but nothing happened to the defense. The clock still ran off. No benefit to the offense whatsoever. 6 seconds were left. The time, everyone didn't know what was going on. Will Howard didn't know what was going on. They thought, and that's the fault of the coaches. But I didn't know it. I'm thinking the same thing. How come you ain't putting the time back on the clock? Where'd the time go? Where the time at? Why aren't you putting the time back on the clock? Because something don't look right. Something is wrong here. Why ain't the time going back on the clock? They found a loophole. They exploited it. And they worked out to their benefit. Worked out to their benefit. They got they won the game because Will Howard had one more second to get that slide going. We would have lined up for a field goal, but he was not able to do it because Ohio State got penalized for a defensive penalty, and they knew it. They took advantage of it. Kudos to them. They got to close that loophole, but it don't do Ohio State no good now. They'll do them no good now, but hey, it is what it is. But like Ryan Day said, even with the pass interference call, I'm not going to just rehash that. Like he said, we shouldn't be in that position to begin with. You should never be in a position where the referees are going to decide the game. Ohio State has been there way too many times. You think they would have learned their lesson. Take it out of their hands, but we just don't expect that. Never mind. I ain't gonna go there. I'm not mad at the call. I ain't mad at the call. The Jeremiah Smith one-on-one, you're gonna take that matchup 9 times out of 10, regardless of the situation. You're gonna take that matchup. So I ain't mad at him. I am not mad at that at all. But back to Dan Lanning and the call. A rule change is coming as because of it. Ain't gonna do Ohio State one bit of good right now. Ain't gonna do Ryan Day no good right now because people ain't gonna remember that. People gonna remember Ryan Day lost another big game. That's all they gonna remember. Ryan Day lost another big game, and that's all people going to remember is he lost another big game. Ryan Day. Every time you lose now, Ryan Day done did this. Ryan Day done messed up. Ryan Day, Ryan Day, Ryan Day. People want to run out Ryan Day. People are not feeling Ryan Day right now. Every time they haven't felt him for a while since the first Michigan loss. So you can imagine how it is now. Ryan Day is getting no love at all. Let's see. One moment. There's some stuff going on here. So Ryan Day. Now people bring up his records. I bring up his record. Ryan Day doesn't lose to teams he's not supposed to lose to. People don't care. He's losing to other teams. This is what they bring up. His bowl record. They don't like his bowl record. They don't like the record against Michigan. 2-4 bowl games. 1-3 versus Michigan. 1-7 versus the top 5 and 0-3 versus the SEC. You know, on the surface, those aren't the best of numbers, but you look at his record against everyone else, this dude's damn near flawless. And the only way you get into these top 5 matchups where Ohio State's a top 5 team is you got to handle your business against these other games. And Ryan Day, to his credit, has done that better. I do repeat, better than Urban Meyer. People bring up Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer won this. Urban Meyer won that. Urban Meyer lost some games. Urban Meyer had no business losing. Probably cost us some championships too. Just want to say that. Just throwing that out there. He lost us. So Urban Meyer lost some games he had no business losing. And his only caveat, he got the big win that he needed to get against Alabama when Zeke ran through the heart of the South. I think that's the saying goes. But other than that, Urban Meyer, he lost the teams he had no business losing to. Ryan Day, to his credit, he beats those teams pretty handily. Does he have some things to figure out in these bigger matchups? Yes, he has some stuff to figure out in these bigger matchups. But it's hard to argue against his overall winning percentage. He's one of the most winningest coaches going right now. And does he need to get better in some of these games? Yes, he does. He needs to get a lot better in several of these games when he gets these top 5 matchups. But people, first thing they want to go to is fire Ryan Day. Fire him. Let him go. We got to get rid of him. Which is fine. And people say that all the time following these losses, which is fine. Fire Ryan Day. But my thing is, and other folks, people saying is, fine, if you fire him, who are you going to bring in? Just don't say fire him. And people, this was a back and forth that happened during the last Michigan game. Fire Ryan Day. All right, we asked the question, who are you going to bring in? And for the most part, when that question gets asked, it's crickets. It's crickets. No one has nothing to add to it when they say fire Ryan Day. You can't get nothing out of them. It's crickets. They ain't got nobody for the most part. And then when they finally do give you the names, they don't make no sense. They really don't. They a couple years ago when it all first started, they wanted to bring in Marcus Freeman. Remember Marcus Freeman, the one who talked about Ohio State? Yeah, they wanted to bring him in. You know, Marcus Freeman, who first of all can't beat Ryan Day, even when he was at home and was favored to win. Lou Holt said they were going to win, but he couldn't beat Ryan Day. And hell, Marcus Freeman can't beat Marshall, Can't beat Northern Illinois. Luke Fickell can't beat Ryan Day. He hasn't been able to beat Ryan Day either. Those are the names that came up, a couple years ago when this first started popping up. You gotta get Ryan Day. When you could get an answer, that was one of the answers. But no, those answers don't make sense. You're gonna fire Ryan Day, make it make sense. And then, after those things sort of got shut down and that sort of died down some, he loses to Michigan again, or Urban Meyer can bring back Urban Meyer. Fine. But I already pointed out, Urban Meyer has a tendency to lose the games. He ain't got no business losing. They're going to cost you a championship any day. Yeah, he beat Michigan, but what he got to show for it? One national title. Do you know why? Because Urban Meyer couldn't beat Purdue. Urban Meyer couldn't beat Iowa. Urban Meyer couldn't beat Michigan State, who was the thorn on our side during Urban Meyer's tenure. And not only that, Urban Meyer leaves baggage wherever he goes. He left baggage in Florida. I know he leaves baggage at Utah. Maybe if we look deep enough, he probably left some stuff at Utah before he went to Florida. But he left baggage in Florida, left baggage at Ohio State, and he left so much baggage he couldn't even make it a year in the NFL. Urban Meyer, good coach, but he come with baggage. As much as I like Urban Meyer, I ain't trying to take Urban Meyer back and get Ohio State in some other mess that we don't need to be in. He come with baggage. And then more recently, with Nick Saban, the reason why he left Alabama, he don't want to deal with this NIL crap. Some coaches don't want to deal with this stuff no more. That's why Chip Kelly left UCLA. Just a head coach willingly leaves a head coaching position just to be a coordinator, and Chip Kelly told you, all I want to do is coach. I don't want to deal with all this other stuff. Nick Saban don't want to deal with all this other stuff. Like I said, give me some names that make sense that we can reasonably get. That's better than what we got now. Because the names that are tossed about aren't better than what we have now. And then the big name recently is Mike Vrabel. That name came up. Well, let's get Mike Vrabel. Last I checked, Mike Vrabel ain't trying to coach college. And he don't want to deal with none of that. He rather deal with the NFL people than deal with what's going on in college and NIL and stuff. And why are you gonna come back? Terrell Pryor getting ready to sue everybody, including Ohio State, over the NIL stuff. You think he want to deal with that? I'd rather deal with the NFL players and who's gonna be on IR and who ain't than having to deal with these college kids and all that stuff going on with the NIL. So it's a headache to keep up with. So fine to say fire Ryan Day, but give me a name and make it make sense. Where they're reasonable, we can get them. They're going to keep the culture going. And again, it makes sense. No, Brian Hartline don't make sense. I'm sorry. I love Brian Hartline. He's a good receiver coach, but he ain't got no head coaching experience. He's too green. Lee Tressel, we didn't know the name, but he had head coaching experience. And Tressel came in and did what he did. Brian Hartline, give him some coordinator duties. Right now, he's just a receiver coach. If he had any inkling of offensive mindset, he'd be calling the plays instead of Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was brought in for a reason, and there was a reason why we ain't go with Brian Hartline to be the full-time offensive coordinator. Let him sow his oats, learn a little, and then maybe down the road, go get a head coaching gig someplace else. And then come back to Ohio State after he then got a little more experience in that spot. But right, who are you going to get that is reasonable that can come in and keep stuff going? I say that with any of the coaches. Now, the one thing that might be interesting talking about before I completely go off Ryan Day, Jim Knowles. People don't like Jim Knowles. Now, the one person that I thought was intriguing that I thought of that's available and that might be willing to do it is our former defensive coordinator, Mark D'Antonio, because he is, I know he has some baggage. Now, some people might throw up the baggage thing with him, but he's just a defensive coordinator. He come in and just coach the defense. Because our defense was good under D'Antonio, and D'Antonio, like I said, he gave Urban Meyer fits, way more so than Michigan did. I said Urban Meyer, you know, for all his undefeated record against Michigan, he got one national title to show for it because he couldn't beat the other folks. And part of that was Mark D'Antonio could beat Ryan Day. So, but Mark D'Antonio, the defensive coordinator, if he ain't too old, I'd take him back. If Jim Knowles gotta go, look at D'Antonio. Why not? Why not? That's just an interesting name. I thought I'd throw out. But everything is still there for Ryan Day. I'm a defender of Ryan Day. Does he need to learn how to win these bigger games? Yes. Is he entering John Cooper territory? I'd have to stop y'all right there. I mean, Cooper has some fantastic teams, and he had talent. He had uber talented teams, but Cooper, like Meyer, he lost games he had no business losing. Particularly the Michigan games. He had no business losing a lot of those Michigan games. He had the more talented team. He lost us a championship. Cooper had the talent to win the championship, and he lost that. You know why? Because he couldn't hold on to a second half lead against Michigan State. Didn't know how to cover Plaxico Burress. Michigan State, Plaxico Burress, they couldn't cover Plaxico Burress in the second half. And we ended up playing with the Arizona State for the Rose Bowl. Would have won the championship had not have been for Michigan State. Michigan State been the thorn on our side. Yeah, recently it's been Michigan, but we got some excuses for that. Speaking of Michigan, let's go back to Ryan Day. Michigan, this record here. Now, some of these games, calls have not gone our way, not to blame refs for everything. Not to blame refs for everything, but we had some targeting calls in some of these games that went against us. Most notably that Georgia game, the targeting call that was called that got overturned. Some of those targeting calls in the Clemson games, the targeting call against was it Trevor Lawrence? Our guy barely touched him. Targeting call or the fumble that wasn't a fumble got overturned. So some calls have gone against Ohio State, and I don't know if that was Ryan Day or Urban Meyer in that Clemson game, but some calls have not gone our way, to say the least. And this top 5 matchup for offensive pass interference. In the Michigan games, 1-3 against Michigan. Now, folks want to really dial in on these Michigan games and the scandal aside, we'll see how that plays out. Just remember, the first time Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh hooked up, Ryan Day led an ass whooping on Jim Harbaugh. Laid an ass whooping on Harbaugh so much that Harbaugh forfeited the next year, the COVID year. He said, I ain't doing it. I ain't playing him. He forfeited. He did not want no part of Ryan Day. And then I think that year he talked shit too. And Ryan, whatever, but I don't know if that's when the cheating scandal was born. Who knows? I don't know. But I know the first time they hooked up, Ryan Day whooped that ass. So much, Jim Harbaugh said, no, I ain't playing him. And then what happened? So that's the 1-3 Michigan. The 0-3 against Missouri. With the 0-3 against SEC, the only game in there that was really bad was the Alabama game. Now it's the game Justin Fields took that shot in the ribs. He really wasn't himself. I think we lost our running back, was the Sermon. In the first half, we had some injuries, and Alabama ran up and down on us. So, yeah, we lost that one. Of course, going into that Georgia game, could have went either way. Clock management at the end. Take away that targeting call, non-targeting, whatever. We could have made a 50-something yard field goal. Comes to some of that play calling you thought they would have learned from heading into that Oregon game. So they still got some learning to do there, but that game could have went either way. And then, of course, the Missouri. Are we really going to count that Missouri game? Really? We're going to count Missouri. Our quarterback left. Half the team left. Half the offense left. I think the defense was intact, but a lot of them didn't play because they didn't know what they were going to do. No Marvin Harrison, no Kyle McCord. Devin Brown. He get hurt in the first series. Lincoln Kindholz was a deer in headlights. Are we really going to count that game? I guess we have to, but that's the 0-3 there. And then I think not to make excuses, but there's stuff behind some of these games that took place on why the record is what it is against that stuff. But I don't think Ryan Day is there yet. And I always maintain I'm a defender of Ryan Day. He wins the game he's supposed to win. He still can. All the goals are still there this year. If he wins out, all this gets erased. All this stuff gets erased. But he got to win out. He got to fix some stuff. Got to fix that defense. Got to work on some of the in the game situations and be prepared for anything. We see how that plays out, but everything's still there at Ryan Day's feet. He's not. I just don't agree with that at all. He is not. He is not John Cooper. He's not there yet. And like I said, if ever gets to a point where Ryan Day misses out on a 12-team playoff, then yeah, he has to go. There's no situation where Ohio State should miss out on a 12-team playoff. If that ever happens, I don't care who the coach is, you got to go if you cannot make a 12-team playoff field. If he doesn't make it, then yeah, Ryan Day, I'm on board. I'll be the first one on here saying Ryan Day got to go if he misses out on the 12-team playoff, which is possible. If they don't fix his defense, they still got to go to Penn State. It's not always, even though we beat them, but it's not a tough place to play. And Drew Aller, he's playing well. Maybe not a Dylan Gabriel type well. Penn State may not have the offensive weapons on the outside that Oregon has, but they got a good running game. It's been hard to run against Ohio State. They have been stout against the run with Hamilton and Tyreek Williams. It's hard to run up the middle against them. But they got some work to do. It starts next week with Nebraska, but everything is still there for them to do and manage. Where did it go? I don't see. One moment. Oh, that ain't gonna work. Oh well. Got some good stuff to show y'all too. Can't bring it up because this does not want to work. So I say some of the kinks my brother got to work out as I learn how to do this live streaming stuff. So we will see how it goes from there because I'm not seeing the slide I need to see that I wanted to put on here. Oh, is that it? There we go. I found it. I think. Oh, so it didn't work. the perils of going live. But anyway, so recap. Everything is still there for Ohio State. Everything's still on the table. All the goals are still attainable. And it's just a matter if we get the defense fixed, because we really need to get that defense fixed and get it worked out. But Ohio State, they're a top four. They're a great position. And everything is still there for Ryan Day. So for those who see this either live or you watch it later on, please enter your comments. Let me know what you think about the Ryan Day situation. Let me know what you think about the Jim Knowles situation. I try to respond to any and everybody. And along the way, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Please help a brother grow this thing out. I can do more as I get more participation. So I really appreciate any and everything you guys can do for a brother. Until next time, you know my saying for those that have seen me before, OHIO, go Bucks. I'm out.